Hi, this is Michelle of Say I Do Marketing, and I help small and large wedding businesses book more couples with smart marketing strategies. And today I'm going to talk about ways that you can improve your listings on WeddingWire and The Knot through a 5-point checklist that I created to help you optimize your listing and book more weddings. So if you're like most wedding vendors, you probably have mixed feelings about listing your business on one of these two sites. You either love it or you hate it. And some of the complaints that I receive from my clients are that it's very expensive investment to have a featured listing on these sites. It's highly competitive, and oftentimes a lot of my clients tell me that they receive an inquiry that comes in and they follow up once, they never hear back. And so one of the complaints I see a lot is that, there's this perception that the leads that come in are not quality leads. So because of all of this, it's a little hard to see the value. But there are some things that you can do to protect your investment on these websites. And so this is my 5-point checklist on what you need to look out for to make sure that your listing on either WeddingWire or The Knot is as optimized as it can be, so that you can book more weddings. So the first step is really to take a look at your listing from a couple's perspective. And I'm going to walk you through how to do that in just a few moments. As you do this exercise, a few things that you want to be mindful of are the images that you're using. You want to be mindful of the number and the quality of the reviews that you get on WeddingWire or The Knot. You also want to make sure that your listing is as complete as possible, and you want to take a look at your follow-up process and see what that looks like. So let's jump directly into The Knot, and I'm going to show you exactly what I mean by this. Okay, so I've gone ahead and created a profile as if I were getting married, and I'm going to run a search of reception venues in Miami, Florida. So feel free to run a specific search specific to the service that you offer. So the first thing that you want to look out for is how soon does it take for your listing to appear in the search? Does it take a few scrolls or perhaps a few page clicks at the bottom for couples to finally come across your listing? If this is the case, if it takes a while for someone to find your listing, then you may want to try increasing the amount of reviews that your listing has. It's possible that the quality and quantity of reviews affects the position, so it's highly recommended to reach out to some of the recent couples you've worked with and request reviews. As you're doing this exercise, you also want to take a look at the main image of your listing and see how it compares to the competition. So as you can see, your listing is going to be competing against several other vendors. So it's important that, the first impression that you give off is often going to be this little thumbnail, this image. So you want to make sure that image stands out. You want to make sure that it looks better than the competition. So for wedding venues, we found that images that feature the facilities of the venue, those typically tend to perform better than images that are used with people in it. So if you plan on using images that have people in it, just make sure that that image also showcases your venue as much as possible versus just a close-up of a couple. If you're not sure which image to use, what I recommend is just testing a few images or different images 1 week at a time. And if you find that your traffic to your listing is increasing, given on the image that you're using that week, then that might be an indication that this image is going to perform better than some of the other images you were considering. As you continue doing this exercise, and when you click through to your venue listing or your service listing, look at it through the eyes of a bride or a groom. Take a look at the competition first and see how the information that they have compares to the information that you have. Is all of your information updated 100%, and is it complete? For instance, WeddingWire tells you how complete the listing is and if you're missing any information, and they kind of give you like a checklist of things that you have to include. So make sure that all of the information that's requested has been submitted. Use as many images as you possibly can. I mean, this listing has 117. That's great. The more information and the more visual assets that you can provide couples, the better. Also, make sure that you include video content on there. Down here, there's a section for amenities and details or services and details. Make sure that you've checked off all of the designated services or details that are offered, because that also affects, it comes up on searches that people do. So in other words, by checking off these services within your vendor dashboard, it's going to help your listing be more visible if people are, for instance, only doing searches for event venues that have dressing rooms or event venues that have indoor spaces. So that's another important part of your listing you want to make sure is updated. Also, WeddingWire has the ability for vendors to submit images of real weddings, and those real weddings can be featured on your listing. So that's another great feature to make sure is activated. So the next thing to take a look at is what actually happens if somebody requests a quote or sends more information. I would encourage you to test that out and just to see what happens. You might find that oftentimes, as soon as a couple is submitting a quote, right after they submit that quote to your business, they're going to get a prompt from WeddingWire or The Knot that says, hey, these are similar vendors. Would you also like to receive more information about them? So you're going to find that couples are not just reaching out to you, they're also reaching out to several other vendors at the same time. So your follow-up is going to be extremely important because there's just so much competition taking place at the same time. So as mentioned, proper follow-up is important. It's best practice to follow up with pending leads as soon as possible. It's obvious that as time goes by, your chances of actually converting that lead into a sale begin to drop. So immediate follow-up is important, especially if other vendors are going to be reaching out to couples at the same time that you are. Following up with new business opportunities also requires a consistent effort, and this means following up more than once. Simply sending an email or leaving a voicemail is not enough. There are actually some studies that say your follow-up process should include at least 10 different touch points that vary across different platforms such as telephone, emails, and even text messages in order to really be effective and make sure that you're converting the most leads into business. So my suggestion is to create a follow-up system that maps out how often you plan on following up with new leads, what channels you plan to follow up on, who will be responsible on your team for following up, and how often that follow-up will occur. So if you create a process that's very clear, you've systemized this, and it avoids you leaving it up to whenever you have a chance to get around to it, because as we all know, wedding vendors are extremely busy. So by creating a process, you're not just putting that off the radar. This is probably one of the most important aspects of your business that is going to help your business thrive. So dedicate the time to create that system and stick to it. So, I also understand that having a good follow-up process might be a little bit overwhelming, but there are so many tools that can help. So don't be afraid to automate some of that follow-up with new leads. And that's actually why we created the Wedding Engine. It is a CRM and email automation system that helps you track all of your leads, whether the lead came in through WeddingWire or The Knot, or even through your website. The Wedding Engine is powered by ActiveCampaign, which is a very popular automation tool. The difference is that we've customized the Wedding Engine to include automation templates and email templates that are specific for the wedding industry. And when you sign up for the Wedding Engine, you don't have to worry about learning how to use it because our service includes your very own wedding engineer who will create a custom marketing system that keeps track and follows up with all of your incoming leads. So, we even found a way to connect the Wedding Engine directly to the Knot so that it immediately follows up with inquiries and new leads that are coming from the Knot. Unfortunately, we don't have that service available yet for WeddingWire, but it's still, if you're on the Knot, it's definitely worth looking into it. And lastly, if you need help, picking up the phone and following up with new leads, we also offer a virtual assistant service that keeps track of all your leads, and we use the Wedding Engine to show you, how many phone calls were made or how your leads are being followed up with. So here's a very quick peek at how the Wedding Engine looks. This is just an example, an automation that fires off whenever a new lead is entered in the system from the Knot or WeddingWire. So you see, as soon as a lead comes in, it automatically sends the lead a text message followed by an email, and then every couple of days it'll do a follow-up email as well. It could even trigger reminders to the sales team to follow up with certain leads based on their behavior. You can even create forms on the Wedding Engine and then use those forms at some of the trade shows that you participate in to increase your lists and your leads. And the CRM portion of it also allows you to keep track of where each lead is within the process, how many you've been in contact with, how many have finally visited or have done a consultation and is just pending follow-up so that you can close the business. So if you found the information in today's session valuable, make sure that you download the checklist. I included a link on how to do that in the comment section. Also, make sure to hit the subscribe button and tap on that bell to receive notifications on some of our future webinars. And if you want more information about how the Wedding Engine can help you manage your leads, feel free to hit the link in the comment section to schedule a demo. So once again, my name is Michelle from Say I Do Marketing, and thank you so much for joining me today.